Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, a new tutorial every week. And this week we are painting summer vegetables. Aww, I love summer vegetables. I have my husband Michael, he's helping us film. Our son Arlo is asleep. Hopefully he'll stay asleep. And we are going to do this painting in 8 steps, which I know sounds like a lot of steps, but it's because we're painting a lot of different things. So our very first step is we are going to lightly sketch all of these. Now there's no outline with this, but for those who are not drawers, don't stress. These are basic shapes. Also, vegetables are wonky. You can have like different shaped vegetables all the time, so don't worry about it. Our second step, we're gonna do the eggplant. Third step, we'll paint the radishes. Fourth step, we will paint the peas. Fifth step, we'll paint the tomatoes. Sixth step, we will paint the carrots. Seventh step, I'm gonna go back and put like the greenery tops on most of them. The 8th step is just like last minute details, okay? Now we are using 4 colors in this project. Our very first color is rose red. I didn't do the oath in the last tutorial.
Unbelievable. I could probably splice one in.
Okay, you'll have to splice one in. Sorry, I just realized that. Our second step is tiger orange. We'll do an oath in this tutorial. Don't worry. I will not do that to you guys again. Our third step is azure blue. No, our third color is azure blue. I said third step. And our fourth color is leaf green. Okay, bright colors, so fun. Okay, now let's do our oath before we start painting. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me, I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay. Let's do this. So, we got a lot of stuff to paint on this paint. And we're gonna go over values and thin lines, and I'll go over the drawing with you guys, but those are the warm-ups that you can refer to the beginner series if you're not quite sure what we're talking about. So let's get started. Let's just start with drawing each thing as we go. So an eggplant is round but long. It's more like an oval shape that kind of has like a curve in the middle. But again, I want to point out that vegetables all grow kind of differently. You know what I mean?
I have seen a perfectly ball-shaped eggplant before.
Yeah, I have too. I've seen squattier ones. I've actually seen some that are like totally straight and long. Like this one, I put a slight curve to it. But again, don't stress about this, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do two circles, and I'm just using like just a pencil. Any pencils. Just draw lightly because watercolor is transparent. You can see the lines through it. So I'm going to start near the top of my paper. I don't want to start too close because I don't want the stem to like go off the page. So I'm going to kind of work probably about an inch or 2 down. I'm going to do a curved line here. That's the top of it. And then a bigger curved line down here.
It's like my body type.
Mine too.
Big right around there.
And then I'm just going to connect these 2 circles. So it's round, and then it kind of goes in, and then it's round again. And maybe this one has more of a lump to it, and then it connects up. There we go. There's our eggplant. Ba-bam. And as you're painting, like sometimes I'll slightly adjust the size of something while I'm painting. Like this might seem a little bit too even to me where I want to maybe like have that edge come out a little bit more. It's totally up to you guys. Do I have an eraser? I don't know if I do.
I can't help you there.
That's all right. Okay. So there's our eggplant, and then the little stem, there's just like a little stem that comes out with leaves just like that, okay? Now we're gonna do our radishes, and I just be aware of your placement on the paper. You don't wanna do your radishes perfectly right next to this eggplant in height, like going this way, because then like these will then also have to be a grid form for the composition to make sense. So kind of off center it. So I had my beets go a little bit lower, and beets are like circles. I'm putting 1 and the other one in front. And you can see these are not perfect circles, right? They're just general ideas that when I paint, I can pick and choose which line I want to use. Does that make sense? So like I usually do a few because then I'm like, oh, I can either go in on this small one or I can make it bigger. So I just kind of like sketch it out. And with radishes, they have a point. These are radishes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Have a point. This one will have a point, and they have like little roots. Okay. And you can draw those in or you can paint them in. It's totally up to you. And then for their tops, I'm just going to do some stems. I'm not going to draw in the tops because I don't need to. Those ones are really free flow with our paintbrush, so I don't need to draw those in. I just need to leave this area blank to give them space. Now we're going to draw in our pea pods. So it's just a curved line on one side that goes back to a curve like that, kind of like the bottom of a mouth or something on its side. And then you do the other side. And again, they don't have to be symmetrical, okay? It doesn't have to be perfectly mirrored. And then I'm going to draw the opening, like so. And I kind of like how I had this curve to the right a little bit. So I'm going to kind of adjust that edge to curve. And then there's kind of one coming out behind it. And that one does not have an opening. It's just like closed still. And then our tomato is just round, a little bit squatty though, so it's not a perfect circle. But again, I have seen perfect circle tomatoes. It also depends on the type of tomato. Like Roma tomatoes tend to be a little bit longer and smaller. So be kind to yourself. So I'm just going to do a tomato like here. And then here's my little greenery. And then my carrots. And again, this is more just putting areas in place so I know when I need to like start and stop. And it also gives you an opportunity to adjust your composition before you actually lay paint down, because maybe you draw your peas or your tomatoes and you're like, actually, it would look better up here or something. Play with it.
I've got a good idea.
Yeah.
If you got a funky looking tomato, right?
Yeah.
And people go like, ugh, what kind of tomato is that? You could just say, it's a Cray-shin tomato. Or like, if you paint a bird, what kind of bird is that? If it doesn't look like a real one, you can say, it's a Cray-shin bird.
A Cray-shin, like a Cray creation?
Uh-huh. It's a Cray-shin tomato.
I love it. It's a Cray-shin.
It's a Cray-shin radish. It's a special variety.
It's a special.
And then they can't be like, no, that's not what those look like.
Or if you're just like, don't you know that's a Cray-shin tomato?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh. Okay, so we're gonna start by painting our eggplant. And I went through and I just kind of erased my lines. I left enough there so I know generally where to put things, but I just lightened them up. That was the cutest hiccup. I hope they heard that. That was so cute. Okay. Now eggplants are this really gorgeous purpley color that sometimes have undertones of blue and also sometimes almost have undertones of red. So I have our rose red here and I have our azure blue, and I'm going to mix those together. Okay. And depending on what you want your eggplant color to be will tell you how much to mix of each. So if, and you can see here, I kind of did both. I have some areas where it's a nice, like more neutral purple, and then I had more pink purple areas, okay? And then here, there's also bluer areas. So I did all of it. You guys can choose though, because this is your painting. So I'm gonna mix a more like pink purple on the side. I'm gonna have a more neutral purple here, and then a more blue purple off to this side. And I'm just going to use all of these colors. So I'm gonna start with my darker blue purple, and I'm just gonna go along the left edge here. And start like that. And then I'm gonna use water to blend out, and you'll see I'm leaving some white spaces. And I think I talked about this in the beach tutorial, but when I'm painting things, I like to leave white like sections, because then I can decide, do I want that to be a glare? Do I want that to like feel like light's hitting it? Do I want that to, like, it gives me options where if I painted the whole thing one color evenly, it eliminates my option to have like a highlight there. Okay, so while this is nice and wet, I'm gonna drop in my other colors. So I'm gonna grab some purple here and some rose red and drop that in. I'm gonna drop that down here. And then I'm gonna go through and just kind of drop in, while it's nice and wet still, some colors. So I'm leaving the middle, I'm gonna leave this area lighter value, so I'm gonna go more towards the edges and drop in this darker value that I have here.
He sounds like an angry cat.
I wonder if he is hungry.
Dang, the purples in that are gorgeous.
Aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
And this is why I really love liquid watercolors, because their color is so vibrant. And I'm sure you guys have heard this story before of how I just completely fell in love with painting with liquid-based watercolors. The very first ones I tried were Dr. P.H. Martin's, which we sell on our website because they're glorious. And it was just, it made everything I painted so exciting to me that I just wanted to paint everything. Like, I didn't want to stop because I painted a carrot and I was like, look at the colors of this carrot. And like this eggplant, look at those pinks and reds in there. Look how these colors like move together. It's just really lovely. And now I'm gonna go through and cover up some of my white spots. So I'm gonna cover up the ones near the top, and I'm kind of just using the color that's already there. I'm gonna leave this one, but I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller. Now I'm gonna cover up that. But they do have kind of a waxy skin, which is why there's a glare to them, which is why I'm leaving the white spots. And now I'm just kind of adjusting this shape a little bit. And I'm just gonna leave this part white, and I'll go back in and add the green top a little bit later. Okay, that was step 2. Now we're gonna move on to our radishes. Now our radishes are going to have a color transition from like a purpley red to red and to like an orangey red, okay? So make sure you got room for mixing. I already have like a purpley red going on here. And I'm just gonna start at the top. Now I have pretty perfect circles at the top, and I'm just gonna kind of go in a little bit where those stems, kind of like where a cherry, how a cherry top is shaped. You know how it has like a little bump. So this is with my more purpley red. And then I'm gonna use just pure red if I have it already. Yep. And then now I'm gonna grab some tiger orange and drop in some tiger orange. And I'm going to do that red on the kind of outside. So then when I hit the bottom of the radish, it's going to go back to that kind of dark purpley red. Now again, I'm really having fun with playing with different colors here. And this is where I think being an artist is great, is like, I don't have to always look at a radish and be like, this is the exact colors of this. Like, you have freedom to play, and I think when you are able to drop in other colors, it just gives you interest. You know what I mean? It just makes it pretty fun. And then I'm gonna leave like the edge here. Okay, so there's my top radish. And then if you want to go in and be like, gosh, I really wish that was darker, you can just drop it in. And it's still wet, so it's just going to kind of move and do its own thing. But I love it when that happens, so I'm not mad about it. Like so. Oh, those colors. Okay, And I'm gonna redo the same thing on this first one. So I'm gonna start with like this more purpley red. And if you actually wanna like get your radish wet first and then drop in colors, nothing wrong with that. You know, I love a good wet on wet technique. So then I'm gonna make some new red because I kind of made mine all purpley. Now I'm gonna grab Tiger Orange. Purpley red again for like the bottom and the edges here. Oh. And then if you're, for me, I'm like, okay, these colors are gorgeous, but I think I put so much in there that I'm missing like a little bit of a lighter value. So I'm just gonna take a damp, clean brush and do a swoop and lift up some of this color that's in here. Not a lot, but just enough to where there's a lighter value. There we go. Okay, beautiful. Now this part, I am gonna do the greens on this part instead of waiting to the end because quite frankly, it's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna grab my round 6, I'm gonna pick up some green. And if you want to have a more yellowish green, you can mix a little bit of Tiger Orange in there. This is a pretty yellow green naturally. So you might not need to. And then you can also mix a little bit of the azure blue in there if you want more of a blue-green. I like to do both. So radish tops are big leaves, and there's like the stems that come out of them and have these big round leafy things at the top. So I'm just going to grab some green and I'm just going to start making big curves. So here, there's another, and remember there's like layers, okay? So these are gonna be nice, these are nice and loose. And while it's wet, I like to drop in different colors and values. Maybe do like a yellowish green in here. Ooh, that's 2 yellow green, which is not a huge deal. I'm just gonna cover it up with green again, so it doesn't look like it's like, you know, dead or something. Okay, and do the same thing over here. Now again, I'm not looking at the top of a radish and being like, oh, this is exactly what it is. It's gonna be really, these are really loose. But my hope is that because radish leaves are so big and there's a few of them that are kind of layered on top of each other, if you were to lay them flat, they would get kind of messy anyway. And just with the shape and the coloring that we're using alone, a viewer would be able to tell what vegetable that is, even though we're not painting this super realistically. Okay. And then I'm going to take my round 2 and put in my stems. So just kind of coming from the center here. Remember, vertical hold, light pressure. If you want more detail, I go over this in the beginner series. I've just, and they can continue on into the leaves as well because those big ruffly leaves have like veins and stuff, right? So and then I'm going to drop in just a little bit more darker green here and there because I just love some value differences. Value is all about the lightness and darkness of a color. In watercolor, you get a lighter value by adding water, but another trick is if you want to get a darker value, you could have less water or pick up another color. So you can get darker values by switching up the hues of a color as well as how light and dark that color is. Does that make sense? Say yes. Okay, I feel good about that. I don't want to mess with it too much because I really love like the free flow, the blooms and the bleedings and the color changes. Gorgeous. Really have fun with this. I'm not going to do the veins just yet. We're going to move on to our green peas. So I'm going to get some green. And this one we're going to do in sections. So I'm going to start it and then I'm going to come back to it and finish it up when I'm doing the greenery tops. So I'm just going to take this green and do the rim. And if you can do it in one brush stroke, that's great. If you can't, that's fine. You could just outline it and fill it in. You just want to make sure that this is a light green because the opening of our green bean, like the inside of it, is going to be darker. And we want to make sure that we want to make sure that this border isn't too dark, so then when we put in our dark center, you can tell the difference. Okay, and then I did a kind of more yellow green for the one behind it. And since this one doesn't have an opening, I can fill it in, but again, I like to leave just some white areas. And if you want like a dark border on it while it's wet, you can go along the edge. Just put in a little bit color. That's it for now for our peas. We'll go back and finish those up, okay? But we're gonna leave those to dry. We're gonna move on to our tomato, and we're gonna use our rose red and our tiger orange to make this tomato. And the reason why I like this red is because when you lighten it up, it has a pink undertone to it, which is wonderful because now you have like a pink color that you can use. So I have my tomato. I'm gonna go in, I picked up my rose red. I'm going to do the border, kind of like what I did with my eggplant. Immediately grab some water and start filling it in. But again, I'm leaving some white sections here and there. Okay. And then while it's still nice and wet, I'm going to drop in my orange. I'm going to drop in more red so it's not like just an orange tomato, but those exist. I mean, heirloom tomatoes are many different colors. There are some tomatoes that are even that purpley and green. So like, play with these colors, have fun with it.
I grew black tomatoes once.
That's right.
They're like very dark purple.
Yes, they were so beautiful. That darn AC came back on.
It's a mothership, and it's picking our whole building up.
Maybe you want some more red in there. Maybe you want some more pink. Oh yeah, look at that red juicy tomato. Okay. And I'm just gonna leave that. And again, you'll see, it's not perfectly smooth. I'm gonna get blooms in here. My colors didn't transition perfectly. That is okay. I'm getting some really cool textures in here, and I feel like watercolor allows you to play like this. And that's why I love watercolor so much, because I could just drop in colors, boom, 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 let them smear around a little bit and then leave it, and you're just gonna get these, like, look how gorgeous that pink is. Do you see that? I just love it. Okay, now we're gonna move on to our carrots.
Sorry, I'm being quiet. I'm walking the little boy around so he doesn't freak out.
You're doing great. Do you want me to hold you? No? Yeah, you'd probably get mad. Can you say hi? Okay, I'm gonna bounce him and we'll see. Okay, now I'm gonna paint my carrots. Now we did carrots in our April box, I'm pretty sure, and those were so much fun. So to do those, I'm gonna get my round 6 wet, and I'm going to wet my carrot with just water. Is he happy or mad?
He's mad.
Okay. So again, just using water. You see the color? Look at this. And then I'm gonna grab my tiger orange and drop it in. And it's just gonna go. It's gonna splay everywhere.
I never get tired of that.
Me neither. And I'm gonna drop in some red with it too to give it like a red orangish on this one. And remember, you gotta leave, I left a little bit of room for the green tops of my carrots. So I left a little bit of room there. Put some red down here too. You see that color? Okay, and then my second carrot, this one is like an heirloom carrot that's like a purpley red, because I want, this is a orangey red, this is more of an orangey red, and this is a strong orange. I wanted to bring this color back to the composition over here. But again, this is your painting. You guys can make whatever decisions you want. And I'm going to use water to paint my second carrot. I'm going to leave a thin line in between them so they don't bleed together, but in the carrots tutorial, we actually let them bleed together, which was really cool. So if you want them to bleed together, do it. It is your painting. Yeah, this definitely will not be possible once he's able to start like grabbing things a little bit better.
You can tell he wants to, he just doesn't have the motor skills.
You'll get there. You'll get there. Okay, so I'm taking like purple red, dropping it in. And then sometimes when you drop in color though, they just like are kind of splotchy. If it's happening so much that you're losing, like it becomes distracting and it's like, why is that carrot tie-dyed? That's when I'll like blend them together just a little bit so then it doesn't distract from what's going on. There we go, that feels a little bit better. Okay. Now we're gonna kind of go in and start doing the details on this. So you just get so excited and I can hear him move. Hello. Okay, so here are all the vegetables, and now we're gonna go in and just do like those last little details. We'll do the green tops, we'll finish off our peas, we'll do like the roots, which honestly is one of my favorite parts, is adding roots to things. It's just so fun. Okay, so for my eggplant, I'm just gonna add a green stem. So it's just a little long skinny rectangle, and then they have like a little bit of leaves here, and I want that to be more yellow green. And you guys can decide what kind of greens you want to add. And if you want to paint all the way to that purple edge, hopefully your eggplant is dry enough now that you can kind of fill it in without like having a lot of bleeding into that purple. Okay. And now I'm going to do my radishes. So I'm going to pick up some purpley red here, and they kind of come to a point. And then I'm going to do thin lines, and you can play with like how many roots kind of come off. Just remember that roots tend to start thicker closer to the vegetable, and then as they go out, they get thinner. So keep that in mind as you're painting your roots, that you want them to be really thin at the end. I'm going to paint this edge that I left blank here. And then this root, depending on where you're shaped, it can like hide behind the other one a little bit, or maybe you see the whole thing. Again, we drew these, so yours is probably going to look different from mine, and that's okay. That. And maybe you want to lift some color out on some of these if it just got too color heavy. Just take a damp brush, get an area wet, and lift with a clean damp brush. There we go. Okay. I'm going to skip my peas for now, move on to my tomato. And again, it's just a little stem and little leaves coming out. So, and my carrots. Now these ones, I didn't have enough room to do those gorgeous carrot tops, so I just did them like the tops of them and then pretended that they got like cut off, you know?
Yep.
And also if your carrots are dry, you can put in the little root textures on the side. Mine aren't dry yet, so I'm just going to do the bottom roots coming out. Okay, now we'll do the peas. So I'm going to switch to, what do I want to use? I'm going to use my round 2 really quick, and I'm just, with a light green, I'm just going to put in my peas, like outline them really quick so I know what to paint around. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, okay. And now I'm going to mix a really dark green by putting azure blue and my green together. And I might add just a little bit of purple if I want to make sure that value is nice and dark. And I'm going to paint around my peas. And I'm going to try not to rest my wrist in something that is wet. So again, I'm just painting around. And you can take this opportunity to maybe adjust the size of like the edge of your pea stalk. So if you want to like thin it out, you can. Maybe kind of goes in a little bit more at that top. Okay, I'm going to let that dry for a second, and then I'm going to add a little bit of root onto my peas here. Not root, what would that be? Like vine?
Stem.
Stem? Stem, thank you. We'll let that dry for a second, and then we'll paint our peas, and then I think that's the last thing we got to do. I am going to darken these stems a little bit on my radishes. Just a little. Couple dark ones, just so they stand out. Okay. And that is not dry enough yet to add that. Okay, now for our peas, they're little round things, but you have to remember that even small things have form. And so I'm going to use a light green to paint in my peas. And I'm going to leave a highlight on the right hand side, which means I'm not going to fully paint them. I'm going to leave a white section on the right hand side. Okay. And if yours happens to like be in the middle, that's not a big deal. Just try and leave a highlight. If you paint over the whole thing like I just did, it's not the end of the world, especially if you have bleed proof white, because then you can just go back in and add a little bit of a highlight. And then I'm going to mix a slightly darker green, and kind of on the edge of this pea, I'm going to put in the darker value. And so by at least having like a soft green, a highlight, and that darker green, it's going to give it just a hint of form, which is really what we want. We want to be like, this is a three-dimensional little round little pea. There we go. And I'm going to try adding my little root textures to my carrots. So kind of go in, and you know how they have those little darker lines. Try and do it in the same colors that you use. Like I probably wouldn't use like a purple red on my orange carrot, you know? Okay, we're done. We did it. We painted everything. Which one's your favorite out of all of them?
I keep staring at that bottom purple carrot. I love that so much.
Oh yeah, that is good. I think my favorite are still the radishes.
Yeah, the radishes are good too.
The tomato is great too. Okay. Thank you for painting with me. This one was hard because we didn't have an outline, and I know that that can be scary, but it's just basic shapes put together. We did a lot of color mixing, but it's fun to see the range of colors you can get. It's fun to drop colors in. If you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. I would love to see what you've painted. I'm sure you guys are gonna add more vegetables and maybe do some cute lettering in there, because we have some wonderful lettering tutorials if you wanted to learn hand lettering. So you can tag us at Instagram, do hashtag Let's Make Art, or tag us in it at Let's Go Make Art. And we have a Facebook group as well that's for the sole purpose of you guys sharing your work, and that is called Let's Make Art Watercolor. So you can go there, post your work. Michael, thank you for painting with me.
You're welcome.
Arlo, I'm sorry you're getting a little fussy. I think you're hungry, so we'll go take care of that. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being with me and spending time with me and my family and my Let's Make Art family. And that's all I gotta say. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.